Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we take a look at a hot topic or ripped from the headlines crisis. My crisis squad and I try to find solutions. I also seek insiders who are really working angles from the inside, trying to make the world a better place. Today, that person is Paul Funk. He's a retired 4-star general in the United States Army. He served tours of duty in Operation Desert Storm, Operation Desert Shield, Operation Enduring Freedom, to name just a few. Now, he helps civilian leaders drive results and serves on the board of Red Cat. General Funk is here for the case file I call Fundamental Attention. General Funk, it kind of feels like we are in a bit of a leadership vacuum. Some leaders we can't trust. Some we're just like, are you really in it for us? Is there some sort of recipe for leadership success?
I think there are. Frankly, I think there are. One of that is just constant communication. I think what we're failing to do in many cases is listen to the people we're trying to influence. We're laying out commentary and not necessarily listening to the feedback.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned listening because people don't think of it as a communication skill. It's actually one of the most critical.
Oh, without a doubt. If you can't listen to whether it be your customer, your employees, other nations, your adversaries are saying, then you really can't understand their approach and what they're trying to get accomplished as well.
And it's not even just a matter of not talking so you're listening. You have to listen and not be in your mind thinking about what I'm going to say next, right? You really have to be an active listener. So from your life in the military and now with more civilians, my guess is you've had to listen or major security issues are at stake, lives are at stake.
Absolutely. The really hard piece is when you have to use the translator as well. And, depending on where we are in the world, there are multiple different languages. And so when it's a skill in itself to have the translation and then respond so that you use words that people completely understand. It's a tough business out there right now to communicate across the global landscape.
On that note, I wanted you to give us some insight into a 72-nation coalition that you led while you were in the military. First of all, that sounds colossal. How do you even begin to do that, and what was that about? So we learn a little history with you here today, too.
Well, I was fortunate to lead the men and women of Combined Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve in Iraq and Syria. And as we built that coalition, this 72-nation coalition, where people came, countries sent their very best to join the organization to rid the world of ISIS, the scourge that was ISIS. And so, but each nation came with its own caveats, its own languages, its own boundaries that they wouldn't traipse across. So managing those things and understanding how to use the strengths of what their caveats might be is a skill in itself. And so I tried to catch people doing things right. And by doing that, I would find when I'd sit down with the leader of whatever country sent their coalition, I would ask them, what are your caveats? What are your strengths? What can you do? What can't you do? What are you prevented to do by law in your nation? And then apply those to where their strengths would be the best. Frankly, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes finding opportunity where everyone can contribute and then highlighting that.
Yeah, really showcasing where
Yeah,
there was success, or
correct.
some real wins. So I know that you have something called Funk's Fundamentals, Funk's
Yeah,
Fundamentals, which is very
yeah.
catchy. Good
Thank you.
alliteration.
Yes,
40 fundamentals. We're going to get into 3 real key ones today. So get
sure.
us started, because I'm really excited to learn right along with our audiences.
Yeah, so let's start with what would be my favorite one, which is actually the 40th one. And they're really not in any chronological order, although I will tell you that this one comes from a book called Legacy. And it's about the New Zealand rugby team. And it actually talks about servant leadership. It's one of the greatest books on servant leadership I've ever read. And in this book, there is a statement by the coach, a guy named Graham Henry, and he says, "You don't own the jersey. You're just the body in the jersey at the time. So you need to leave that jersey in a better place every day." So I looked at our service, the service to the nation, as the opportunity to wear the jersey of the greatest team on earth. And I felt like everyone from their own nations felt the same way. So they, in turn, could actually understand and see that they had to leave their jersey in a better place, right? We have to. They also talk about a second piece to that jersey piece, which is plant flowers or plant trees that you'll never see grow. That's about
Exactly.
that's about having a legacy. What are we trying to do here? What we were trying to do was rid the world of ISIS. What we
But
were trying to do is reestablish the hope of a nation, that being Iraq, and its honor, and provide hope for the people of Northeast Syria. That's what we were trying to do.
so if you play out that fundamental number 40, one of the key ones,
Uh
and
huh.
wearing that jersey, or you
Yes.
don't own it, you're wearing it for now, I can see how that really has analogies across any kind of organization, whether you're working for a profit organization, a corporate organization, a
Yeah.
nonprofit, a school district, whatever it is, it is not a jersey you own. That brand, that name is, you're inhabiting it for a while, hopefully leaving it better than when you found it.
Precisely. And I've talked to managers of professional sports teams, head coaches of football teams, and communicated that same effect because I believe it. I believe you get I guess my next fundamental would be love the one you're with, right? Be in the organization, make it the best you can be, and I think that that's number 30, as a matter of fact. And what that really goes about is if you've joined this organization, made the decision to be part of it, then it's your responsibility to make it as good as you possibly can. And how do you change the condition? You do that through positive interaction, through growth mindset, and through making sure that every day you give your best to that organization.
Yeah, really great. All right, those are 2 terrific ones.
Yep.
Give us that
Yeah.
third kind of, there are 40 of them, but we're going to give these 3 highlights today.
The other one goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, which is communications are established lower to higher. Said another way, that's actually number 22. And said another way is you have to lead up sometimes, right? And if you have a learning organization that exchanges communications up and down the chain, in the military it's a chain of command, but you can call it what you want, flat organization, doesn't matter. All what really matters is that the people at the bottom have to feel like they can communicate to the people at the top, and the people at the top have to be able to see first that the people below them are being heard. They're not necessarily always going to change what it is because of X, Y, or Z, but I think you owe them the why, right? That's what we try to get to is what's your why? There's a barbecue place, an army travels on its stomach. So there's a barbecue place that has a beautiful mission statement, which is what's your why? Why did you join the organization? Why are you trying to contribute? How are you, why? What's your why for servant leadership? I love that, and that Mission Barbecue is its name, and fantastic. From the CEO on down, they believe in it.
Well, I love the name, Mission Barbecue.
Yes,
Where are they
yes,
based, General?
out of Virginia mostly.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out my next
East
trip
Coast.
out that way.
Make sure you do. They are dynamite. I could almost blindfolded take you to the one out in the Fort Eustis area.
I love it. Okay, well, we gave them a plug right here on the Crisis Files.
That's right.
All right, so you've given us 3 of those 40 funk fundamentals, and I definitely urge people to look up all of them and the rest of them. Let us take those now in my big question to you. When you know that you're one leader and you're trying to be that leader outward to hundreds or thousands or even 5 other people, how do we ensure that you, the leader, that integrity, the ethics, the values that you are trying to teach actually stick the farther out we get from you, the leader?
Yeah. You have to lead. You have to live them. You actually have to be an exemplar of these things, right? And so, I think it's just another one of, I'm sorry for this plug, but the higher up the flagpole you go, the more your rear end shows, right? You've got to make sure you understand that people are looking to you for however you address situations, both formally, informally, verbal, and nonverbal.
Right here, that visual from retired General Funk. Thanks for that visual.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
But it is helpful to have a graphic visual like that because it is important. You are being watched. And if you mess up, it's okay to mess up. Own the messing up. That's
exactly right. You own it. Say, hey, I learned from this, and here's where we're going to go. So that I think is very important. And I think when ego gets in the way, we have a tendency not to own things, right?
Exactly. What I always say in my crisis strategy practice with clients is, if you are the one who messes up, be the one to say it first.
Yeah,
don't be reacting.
That's right. Exactly.
Yes.
When you start reacting, it's hard, right?
Right. And you're less able to then control the narrative. All right.
That's right.
So people are going to be listening to this case file number 97, fundamental attention, from now to hopefully forever. Depending on when they're listening to it, we may or may not be near a national holiday or not, thinking about the military or not. But what I want to ask you as a retired general, what is something that you want to leave us with that we should all be thinking about when it comes to those service people, both in the U.S. and service people in other countries? Because all of you, the visual I had when you talked about the translator, I think we just think stuff gets done. I'm not even thinking about how many different translators you need when you have a 72-nation coalition or even a 3-nation coalition to get stuff done.
Yes. And so, first of all, when you think about this, I think if we all understand that 0.04% of the people of the country are in uniform, 0.04%.
In the United States.
In the United States. And across other countries, it's probably even smaller, frankly. At least in the countries that we tend to interact with. I don't know that people recognize just how courageous these young men and women are. They should understand that this is to be celebrated. The chance, the opportunity to share a uniform of the greatest team ever assembled and to wear it with pride and to represent a nation around the globe and to be the exemplar of what it means to be able to serve. I don't think people understand that. And for those families, as and Memorial Day always has a special place. My parents, my family, our whole family had served, and we have all suffered loss across multiple wars, frankly, all the way from back to World War II when my grandfather was in the Navy to all the way forward to my nephew carries the family lineage on for a 4th generation. We have suffered loss. And that a young man or woman will volunteer to give their life in support of its nation is truly servant leadership. It truly is. And
It's the
so,
ultimate gift, right? That they
yeah,
give.
yeah, it is. And they don't necessarily want to do it, uh, but they're willing to do it for us. You know, and so I have several friends, one that are Medal of Honor recipients, and they've all, we all kind of struggle with the saying "thank you for your service." We don't struggle with it, but you don't never know what to say. And so my friend, Medal of Honor recipient David Bellavia, came up with this, and I stole it because that's just the way it is. Somebody will say to Dave, "Thank you for your service," and he says, "You're worth it." And frankly, at least in our country, I believe the men and women of our country predominantly serve because the American people are worth it. They're worth our sacrifice and our service to make a difference in the world.
That brings a tear to my eye because, and here's why. I'm not sure we're all worth it, General, but thank you for saying that.
Well, I think that this ideal of the of America is worth it. It truly is. And
yes, it is.
And the vast majority, the vast majority of our citizenry is truly worth it. And we are a nation of immigrants formed together in a collective understanding that we're Americans first. That, to me, I think needs to be reinforced in the nation.
You are so right.
And I think when that's said, when those men and women go out to those dangerous places around the world, and they're serving on a cold and lonely post somewhere, and they think back, they want to believe that America's behind it. And I know I always did. That wasn't always the case in other times in our country, but it is now. And it's frankly the Vietnam era veterans that have made sure that the veterans like me have been welcomed home, have been received warmly by its citizenry, and have felt like their service mattered. General Marty Dempsey's got several books, and in one of them he says he's got a statement about make it matter. We got to make sure that the sacrifice of the men and women we have lost in combat throughout the generations, we got to make sure that that service matters. It can't be squandered.
Well, I could not have said any of that better. Thank you so much for being on the Crisis Files and sharing all the insights, not only about leadership and inspiring us to be better as we move forward, but reminding us what the United States military does for its people, what those kinds of same bodies in other countries around the world do for their people. So we appreciate you, and we hope you continue to come back to the Crisis Files.
I will come back anytime. Thanks for having me again.
And if you want to connect directly with General Paul E. Funk, look him up exactly in that way on LinkedIn. Today's Crisis Brief is brought to you by Navigate Forward. Number 1. You don't own the jersey. Leave it in a better place than how you found it. Number 2. Love the one you're with. Make your current role the best it can be. Number 3. In any organization, communicate from the bottom up. People at every level need to be able to understand one another and know their why. Losing your job can feel like a crisis, but it's actually a great opportunity to reimagine the work that inspires you. If you're an executive who's ready for what's next, let Navigate Forward be your guide. Their career transition experts work exclusively with CEOs, VPs, and senior leaders around the United States, virtually or in person. Find out more at navigateforward.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Check out our website, thecrisisfiles.com, to catch up on all case files in one easy spot. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.